Hey there, and welcome back into the Direct Selling Accelerator podcast. My name is Sam Hind, and today you're going to meet an absolutely gorgeous individual that I had the pleasure of meeting for the first time at the DSA conference back in July. Today, I'm going to introduce you to Faith Paki, who is the Australia and New Zealand country manager of Scentsy. Now, what I absolutely love about Faith is that she has had an experience both as a leader in the field, but also as a leader in corporate. And she's going to share both sides of that journey with us in this interview. Faith also talks about being authentically yourself, and there is no one that I feel is a greater example of this than Faith. And I'm really excited for you to meet her today and hear a little bit about her story. She also talks a little bit about sinking, swimming, and floating. And this was a little bit of a golden nugget for me. I love the way she talked about this in her business, and I know you will too. So grab that pen and paper, because there's going to be loads of golden nuggets along the way with this interview. I know you're going to love Faith as much as I do. So listen in and enjoy. Hey, everybody, and welcome back into the Direct Selling Accelerator podcast. You all know me, but I am joined today by the beautiful Faith Paki. Welcome on in, Faith. I am so excited to have you here today.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here, Sam. Thanks so much for having me on.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. And I'm really excited about this chat. But before we get into it, I better introduce Faith. I've already told you a little bit about her, but the thing I love about Faith and what I'm so excited about chatting about today is where she's come from and where she is now, which is a little bit unique. So as you guys know, Faith is the Australia and New Zealand country manager for Scentsy. I got that right, yes?
Yeah, nailed it.
But Faith has come from the field. You've been in a leadership role with Scentsy previous to coming into corporate, which is quite a big shift. So do you want to tell us a little bit about you, where you are now, and then we'll have a bit of a chat about that journey, Faith?
Yeah, sure, Sam. Look, it's a fun one. I was with Scentsy for 4 years in a leadership role, and then I was asked to join Scentsy Corporate, which I've got a heavy corporate background, so that transition was actually quite easy. Being in the field was a lot harder. The only thing that made it really easy was I love to party. Well, that sounds a little wrong, but I do. I love to meet new people. I love to,
anyone in the industry gets it. I know.
That's right. I'm just like, I'm talking to my people here, so they get it without judgment. I love that facet of it. So moving over to corporate was easy and really hard all at the same time. And the reasoning why I made the shift was probably one of the easiest decisions for me. I just knew I had to give it a go.
Yeah.
I just knew I had to try.
And I'm excited to talk about why you did that shortly. Yeah. I want to just give a little bit of context, because one of the things that really stood out to me, and I first met you at the DSA Australia conference. What would it have been? June, July?
Yeah, just before we went to shut down here in Sydney. Yeah.
That's right. It was like great. The only trip I've made on a plane in the last 2 years. And anyway, we were all very excited. Everyone had gone. We thought freedom was there. It had been
right.
we'd had, I think it was awards night as well. So we were on a high because we'd just won our award, and everyone was out having a couple of drinks, which was so good. So we're sitting down having a little bit of a chat, and we got to know each other, and I loved hearing about your journey. And as you were telling me, I was like, I feel like our listeners would so love to hear about this, because you've gone from quite a unique situation, which you just explained. You were in the field, you were partying, you were working your business.
Yes.
And then you got approached. And you had a little bit of a crossroad there, and it's really interesting hearing about that. So I'm really excited for you to tell us a bit about that in a moment. But before you do, how about you share with us a little bit about who Faith is, your family life, because I know that you have got also an incredibly unique family life that over the last little while that has been, has wowed me.
Yeah. Okay, sure. So in a nutshell, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I have 4 beautiful children, 1 son, 3 daughters. And Prior to even starting Scentsy on a corporate and also, in the field, I worked in the airlines. I worked for Virgin for over a decade, which I loved. I was a trainer at Virgin and I loved it. And it was just timing. I had my fourth child, and it was really hard to kind of go back after that.
Yeah.
And Scentsy wasn't a mistake. It was just peer pressure / coincidence. And I think I told you that, I had just finished giving birth to my third child, and my sister, my older sister, and see, I'm married. So I'm from New Zealand. I was born and raised in Australia. But when your older sibling or anyone older than you says you have to do something, you pretty much have to do it. So she came into like my birthing suite. She's like, I want to order a bunch of this Scentsy stuff. And Scentsy had just launched here in Australia like 3 months earlier. Yep. Never heard of it. Had no idea what she was talking about. And she pretty much said, like, you've got to sign up because I want to order these warmers. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Now, I have to tell you, Sam, I was always the friend that would host parties, but I have never joined a direct selling. I've never been interested. I just always loved to support my friends.
Yep.
And family. So when this came, I was like, oh, I'm not interested, but I just happened to just sign up. Like literally, I think my daughter's like 2 days old. And it was a bit of a whirlwind. And like my launch party was such a schmozzle. Don't forget, this is a week before Christmas. And I just messaged my girlfriends, like, come over and meet my baby. Oh, besides, I've got some things on display. Like, I was terrible.
That's one way to do it. Yep.
Yeah, when I tell people, like, there is no right or wrong way how to launch these businesses. Yeah. There is really not.
This is not the first time I've heard of a baby being used to get.
Yeah, 100%. I just felt like it was my in, and my girlfriends came, and again, this is a week before Christmas, and they met my baby, and I actually said to them, this was my sell. It was so terrible because I had no idea what the product was. I said, it's set up over there. You can have a look at it or just come and eat. Like, that was it. And my sister was like, oh, you're going to do great at this. Like, she was like, that was the worst sale ever. I didn't go back to the Scentsy products at all. Like, that was it. They kind of walked around. I stayed near the kitchen, near the fridge the whole night.
Yep.
And it wasn't until the end of the night, and my mum had come over to me. She goes, oh, darling, you should have a look at these orders. And I'm like, yeah. It was so bad. I didn't even know how to look at the order forms. Like, it was terrible. And it was after I realized I had like $2,500 of orders.
Goodness.
Just sitting. That's when my business light switched on, and I started Googling everything I could about Scentsy. I don't think I slept for like the next 3 days. And I've loved it ever since. Yeah. I've loved it ever since.
That's one of those examples as well. And I've talked about this recently in a previous podcast episode, but one of those examples where you have people that believe in you sometimes more than you believe in yourself. And
100%.
Sounds like you had some really supportive friends there that sort of came in and went, do you know what? Like, she can do this. I can totally see her doing this. And
I just think they all needed presents as well. I think the timing was just, it was just timing. Great. That's right. But to this day, they still ask me, like, I have to tell them I'm not selling Scentsy. They still ask me, what have you got? What can I come and grab? And I'm like, I don't have anything.
See, that's really powerful. That's and that's the power of building the relationship, which is obviously something that you spent a lot of time doing with, within your business, which we'll talk about in a moment. But
sure.
Can you tell me why you were in the business? Because obviously you had 3 and then moved on to having 4 kids and, and being married and then running the business and all of the things that go with that. So how did you maintain life, being a mum, work, and building this amazing business? I'm going to say what's the secret, but I think you and I as mums of 4 know there's not really a secret, right?
That's right. And there really isn't, Sam. And I think the best part of this whole experience and this business is you have the flexibility to do it whenever you like. You just need the discipline. Right? The flexibility is there. It's the discipline that you have the gauge on. You have the finger on the pulse, so to speak. So I am a list person. I keep my calendar really chock-a-block, just so I know it keeps me in line. And that's my love language to myself, is lists. So I like to be organized. So I have a lot of things happening, but I also was really transparent. So there were times where I was taking 3 or 4 kids to these parties. Yeah. And my children actually became the better selling agent than I did. Like, there's nothing.
Amazing, aren't they?
That's right. And it wasn't even selling. It was just sharing. Like, my children genuinely started, they grew up with Scentsy for 4 years and, now 8 years. So, they can't imagine life without it. And I can't really either. Like, it's the product. I love the product. I love the culture. Yep. So it's not always easy, but I think transparency with my hosts at the time, transparency with deliveries, expectations was something that I really worked on. Because if I could manage that, everything else at home would be fine. If I could manage that side of it.
So it's about being honest. I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
And so from an organizational point of view, I like to call myself kind of like a fly by the seat of my pants. Greg calls me Taz Devil. He says it's like, the Taz Devil cartoon where like it runs and there's always like this chaos behind it, but it's like moving really fast. Yeah. So it's like me. I move really quickly and I get a lot done, but I leave this trail of destruction behind me for everyone else to pick up. So I love to try to be organized, but I need someone else to create the systems for me. And then once I've got the systems, I'm great. I can walk in and look at my desk and know exactly what's where, but someone else will walk in and go, oh my God.
Yeah, that's probably me, Sam. I'd be like, oh, Sam, what are we doing?
You're about to give me some really special piece of. So you said you like lists, you like order, and you like to organize your time. Sure. And this I'm going off on a tangent here, but have you got any tips for organizing your time? Like, do you use any special tools, any apps, any diaries, any calendars, any planners? Like, what's your way to keep your time organized?
Yeah, good question. Look, I used to have a calendar. I'm surprised it's not here, but I have a calendar on my wall. I have 2 on my computer, and I used to have a desk calendar that I'd write everything. It was like my Bible.
As in like a big month?
No, like a desk was. So it was mainly when I used to party, right? I'd write down all my parties. I'd take it with me, and I haven't used it probably in that sense for probably the last 3 years. And I've put everything digital because I need everything on my phone now. Yeah. I need to, when I'm speaking to teachers and they need to make appointments, I need to have it right there and then instead of clunking out my whole book and let me see when I can flick you in. But so I like to just keep calendars. I set alarms, and the alarms never sound like alarms. They sound like fairy music. And on those alarms, I set like really. Alarms are never good. I find them just annoying. Alarms means I've got to wake up. But with these types of alarms, it's more like just reminders. Yeah. And they sound like, and then I read the label on it and we'll have like whatever it is coming up. So, it's to me, that works for me. It could be like for my husband, it would never work. He would just hit snooze or just turn it off altogether. But I have to add this, because as organized as I am and how I would like to be, don't get me wrong, sometimes, it's not all rainbows and fairies, but I am really lucky to have an amazing support system, which is my husband. So he is the one who picks up everything, right? When I have to go overseas for 2 weeks, when I have to do world tour for 2 weeks, he's the one that's, and he has his own business and he just makes it work. Never complains. I could not do it without him and my mum. And my mum's 81, and she doesn't drive. But she makes lunches. She cooks my kids 3 hot meals a day. Like they're devastated when I come home because I'm like, it's back to sandwiches.
Don't you love that? Yeah.
Yeah, I do. But they're very spoilt when I'm not here, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, that's awesome. Having that support network is really powerful. I know not everyone has the blessing of that.
No, that's right.
But it is, I think that I'm going to come back to having those people that believe in you, though, because even if you don't have the support person that can come in and cook for you, and, I can't say that I've necessarily got that. I probably would if I asked for it, but, I think some of us are not so great at accepting help in some of those areas. But when it comes to having people around you that believe in you, I think that's so powerful. And that doesn't have to be about the person that picks up the slack necessarily, but it's the person that, keeps you accountable to that self-belief that, hey, you are doing the right thing. You are on the right track. It might be crazy and nuts right now, but keep going, because there are those moments where you question yourself, especially as a mum, and the mummy guilt creeps in and you go, should I be doing this? Should I be just focusing on my family? And I think that's a really great example, because in the role that you're in, which we'll talk about in a moment, suddenly you do have a lot more travel involved. You have a lot more responsibility involved, because it's not just your business now. It's
correct.
You're here to support others.
Correct. Yeah. And it's, you nailed it. It is kind of having that open scope and being very grateful for what I have. And I certainly am. But it's also, I remember I was in New Orleans on a trip. We had a leadership over there, and I think I had been away. It was my first trip as a country manager.
Yep.
And I remember just sitting there and I burst into tears. I think it was slight jet lag, maybe a bit hungry, but definitely missing my family. And I just burst into tears, and I just had these men and women who have never met me before, all of, our leaders in the company, just come and swoop in on me, and they had no idea it was home office. To them, I was just another attendee, and they're like, "What's wrong?" And I tried so hard just to keep it on. I said, I just miss my kids, and it was real. It's real. I've been at events and mothers have done that, and they've only just left their kids, and I'm like, "Oh, bless you," And I think and fathers. Right, that's this business. It's just not man or female. It's everybody. So, but we're lucky to have that flexibility. We're just so lucky.
Yeah, and the thing that I love so much about this, and particularly in hearing about your journey as well, is that reminder that we can actually have the career while also being an awesome mum, and it's not one or the other. And mummy guilt is that really challenging thing that I feel, it doesn't belong. It needs to take a bit of a backseat, but it does creep its way in often for us, because there's this desire that you have, I have, and I know most of our listeners have, which is that we also want to accomplish something out of just, out of home life. Like, we want to accomplish something 100%. In our career. We want to build a business. We want to build a legacy. For whatever it is for you. And I know for everyone, it's a little bit different. But Absolutely. You can do it all. And the really interesting thing about it is that we're actually showing our kids something really important. And that is that we matter as well. And our goals are important drivers, not just for us, but for them. So your 4 beautiful kids are watching you go through this journey. And I have no doubt there'll be so much pride from them, maybe even now, but later on in life, where they look at this and go, look at what my mum did. And that shows me what I can do. So if anyone right now is listening going, oh, I feel bad leaving the home. I feel bad going away. I feel bad doing this. I feel bad doing that. I feel like your kids will be so much more thankful that you did later on. Yeah. Because they could see that you prioritize yourself, and that gives them permission to prioritize themselves too.
Absolutely. And it really can be very hard. I speak to some amazing people every day with that exact same of thinking, really. Yeah. And it's really hard. And I can only speak from my experience, right? I can only speak, but I can guarantee that even if I didn't have the same support, I would still do it.
Yeah.
Because I need it as a person, and I feel a bit lost by the wayward as a human when I don't have something that keeps pushing me, when my why doesn't keep changing and I keep wanting to move forward.
Yeah.
And that's just me as a person. And the wonderful thing is everyone is just so different. And it doesn't have to be the top earner, or it doesn't have to be, it could be small things. It could be, earning enough to pay for your children's, sport once a week, or piano lessons, or them to attend camp. Like, it's these little things that we could break down to just real simple things to make it easier for us just to get started instead of thinking that we just got to go whole, because we can't all do that, right? We just can't, but yeah, I just think it's something that you just need to make a personal decision and small steps.
That's great. So I want to talk about your transition now, because you went from field partying, having a great time building your business, to being approached to jump into this role that you're in. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that journey, how that decision came about, why, tell me a bit about it, because I've heard the story, but I think this is, I'd love for our listeners to hear a little bit about how you went through that transition and what that's all meant for you.
Yeah, so I've always had an amazing relationship with home office in any capacity, whether it's Orville and Heidi, who are our CEOs, down to, even the most amazing customer service representations that we have. Like I've always just tried. I just love people. So, it was always fun. So I've always, known who home office is, felt like they were my friends first and foremost, which is always great. And when you earn incentive trips, you kind of you're spending weeks with them, or days that, or you go to trainings, that's another week. So I feel like you're kind of catching up with them every couple of months, which is always nice, right? And that they literally become your friends, which is great. Look, it was completely left field. I was still at Virgin. I had no idea. The current acting CEO, Dan Orchard, he reached out to me just to chat. And that wasn't out of any, that wasn't unusual, him just reaching out. And so we just had a chat, and then, the chat became a bit more serious. And I actually thought he was joking, because we just have that sort of friendship where, obviously I don't know why he would ever think to joke about that. But I did. I just thought, you must be joking. And then the offer was made. And I had been with Scentsy as a consultant for 4 years. Mm-hmm. I had a lot of friends who were consultants, and many of them were very, very successful. And this was their livelihood, Sam. This was, this is how they fed their children. This is how they clothed their children. And a lot of them, were doing it by themselves. And I felt obligated as a friend to at least try and do this role to the best that I could.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what made me do it.
Yeah.
Besides anything else, I felt, and no obligation on their behalf. They had no idea, but for me as their friends, and I just knew I had to give it a go.
Yeah.
And I also knew I had great support from home office. That was a big key.
So how did that go for you, leaving your business? Because you would have had to have disconnected your business, turned it off and said,
yeah, correct.
It was hard. Yeah. I can imagine it would have been hard.
Well,
how did you go through that transition process, and what did that look like for you over that period?
Yeah, it was hard. One of the hardest conversations I had was telling my team.
Yeah.
That was going to happen, because you bring people into this business, and this is a relationship business. Yes, it's a product-based business, but people stay usually in this business, yes, for the product, but also for the culture.
Yeah.
So, I had tried to create an awesome culture within my team, and, that made it really easy for people to join, but hard for them to leave. And here I was leaving them. In saying that, I had the most incredible upline support that pretty much just swooped in and took off and did a much better job than what I was doing. It was really hard. Really hard. I missed the party side of it for years.
Yep.
For years. I missed the chase of incentive trips for years. And, I was very fortunate to be able to go on incentive trips from a corporate perspective.
Yep.
But I missed that earning. It's very odd, and it must sound so bizarre, because I'm like, yeah, it must be so hard. But it was hard.
No, I totally get it. To be fair, I mean, this is one of the things I miss a lot, being in the role that we're in now.
Sure.
I loved that side of building the relationships and making the sales, and feeling like, you're serving people, and, you're succeeding and it's doing well, and you've got the growth, and you've got the it's like the incentives and the thing to work towards, and you achieve it and you feel so great.
Yeah, that's right.
But at the end of the day, there's a flip side to that, which is, and I think you and I think on the same wavelength here a little bit, even though we're in very different roles, in that we're both here to serve other people and help them have something that we know is really precious and special. And the reward is seeing people get that and achieve that and have that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like even just this morning, I jumped onto a few of our Facebook group pages, and there was accolades of people who just earned out in current incentive. And how could I not, like, big smile on my face, you know? And obviously I did nothing, but I was just so proud of them. And I'm so happy for them, because I know how hard it is to be able to achieve these incentives. So, you know, I get the joy from it, and the gratification from another side. And, you know, I love just being a part of their journey now. It's funny, that switch.
Yeah.
And I get to celebrate them.
Yeah. I love that. That's great. I've actually got a bit of a pointy question for you though now. So
okay.
What I want to know is, you know, from someone who's gone from being in the field to someone who is now country manager for Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah.
I know that there feels like there's always two worlds, and you've got the field and they've got their world, and then you've got corporate head office, they've got their world, and there's this disconnect between the two. What is there anything that when you move from being in the field to being in corporate, is there anything where you went, oh man, there's a big disconnect here? Like, that is not how I thought it was, or I would have had so much more understanding for head office had I known those things being in the field. Like, what did that disconnect look like for you? Or was it pretty close and not, were the two of them, I guess, not what you expected in that sense? I'm just curious to know what that looked like for you, seeing now both sides of it.
Yeah, sure. That's a really good question. And it's something I get asked often, which is funny. It's, look, the disconnect I know now, and I've known for quite a while, it is always from home office. Right, we can create that or we can break it. It's that easy. But Scentsy's been, as I said, I've always had a really great relationship with home office, so I never really saw, they were very open, transparent. It wasn't really, but I think it was more harder for home office to accept me coming from the field to home office with a consultant head, because I very much came into meetings kicking and screaming, because I was like, well, no, that's not how it should happen. I literally still had my consultant hat on. And it took me a while for them to be very patient with me and to kind of reverse engineer it. Faith, we will get there, but there's all these little processes that we need to do first. Yeah. I didn't get that part, right? Yeah. I knew what we needed. I knew what we wanted, but I just needed it to happen. And that is something that, you know, I see in the field today, and that I've tried to be very open and honest with. Guys, I hear you. And, you know, we come leaps and bounds, I feel, over the years, which is great. The business just keeps sort of evolving. Yeah. Can we do better? Absolutely. I do feel, and this is complete responsibility on myself, is that I have the ability to connect or disconnect. And it is my responsibility to make sure that there's always that connect. Yeah. That is always that openness, because at the end of the day, the field, you know, they're the ones that are selling the product.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. And I never forget that. And our teams don't forget that. And we can't. We can't.
It's a really funny one, because, you know, you now obviously being in corporate, you're seeing that side of it. Greg and I have got the interesting position where we work very closely with a lot of head offices, but we're also working extremely closely with the field. So we're seeing both sides of things. Yeah. The interesting thing is, in 99.9% of the time, the head office, corporate, the team, whatever it is that you want to call it in your various different companies, fighting an amazing fight for the field. Like, they want you guys to have successful businesses. But the issue is that, like you've just said, Faith, really beautifully, is that there are processes in place. And in order to make things work, often decisions like this can't just happen, because things have to be set up in such a way that they can work long term for everybody.
Yeah. But and I think sometimes we can forget from the field perspective that sometimes we're the third party. Home office is the third party.
Yep.
So, we're going into different warehouses, we're going to different factories, we're waiting for them. And that can be really hard to understand.
Yeah.
Because you see these big corporations and What
do you think would be some things that would be interesting or helpful for the field to know about your head office? Like some of those secrets, not really secrets, but some of those underlying factors that you, maybe when you came in, you were like, okay, if I didn't realize that, I know that we see a lot of things. You're like, I think that the field have no idea the amount of work that goes into that one thing over there that they take for granted. And it's not picking on the field in any way, but no. I'm just wondering, are there any things that you think, are great for any field in any company to understand about a head office scenario that for you were aha moments?
Yeah, I think for me, it was more, especially, I can only really speak for Scentsy, but direct selling, it's the same. Businesses are so fluid. They change so quickly.
Yeah.
So what you would allocate certain time to is literally maybe one launch, and that's months and months of planning. Yeah. I didn't realize the depth of that planning for a simple launch that is started in 5 minutes and over in an hour. And the planning that goes into that one launch. And it's not just one team. It's, 15 teams. And, I know that because we go into these war rooms pre-launch and we've got everyone in there, but literally the kitchen sink, because we just want it to be a great launch. And you see people doing their thing and it's actually amazing. It's amazing to see, but the field don't see that.
Yep.
Right. They don't see that.
All they're looking at is
that's right.
Enough. Or the colours are not right.
and to be honest, we need that feedback as well, right? Yes. It's not that but there is always more details. One thing, especially probably the last 2 years, Sam, one thing that I've really tried to do or be as a country manager is really more transparent with my leaders, especially so they can filter it down to their teams and so they can lead better, right? And so having that transparency has been really so helpful for me because I can just tell them this is the scenario and they understand, okay, there's 4 or 5 different processes to get to that point. They don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And so absolutely. There were definitely a few aha moments, especially when I went to home office. You don't understand how massive this business is until you go into a building that's got, levels and levels and levels.
It's kind of like conference, isn't it? Where, when you're on one,
that's right.
You walk in and you go, we've got a gift on the table and, lunch is organized and, there's all these things happening. You're going, yep, this is great. And in some cases, and I do this, I think we all do it, you think about the thing that isn't happening or that hasn't been set up right but what you don't understand until you're behind the scenes is how much unbelievable work goes into running a conference. And I see people pulling their hair out trying to make a conference happen. And I'm sure this is obviously, anyone who runs a conference has to have like a week off afterwards just to sleep.
That's right. That's right. Absolute.
I actually want to ask you a question about partying and business. For now, knowing what you know, because we've been talking a little bit about those things that you learn when you go to head office and you start working in that space and you go, okay, this is different to what I thought it was. And, a little bit of a shift in perspective, I suppose. But how would anything change for you if you went back into the field now, knowing what you know and having had an experience in head office? Would you do anything differently? Not putting you on the spot or anything.
No. No. I don't think I would, to be honest. I think I would, pay someone to help me with similar stuff to what you offer, to be honest, Sam. Like
social media.
Yeah, social media, like all of that. That's definitely, I hardly did that obviously when but that's something that I would definitely want to learn more about if I was to go back into business. But no, there's nothing else that I'd really change.
Yeah. Really. Do you feel that there's been a big shift in the last 4 years in that space. And, you know, I guess you've sort of touched on it here that, you know, you would invest in making sure that you focused on that space a bit more if you went into it now.
Absolutely.
So do you feel that there has been a bit of a change? And is that, you know, like, how do you feel about social media and direct selling? What's the importance of it?
Look, for me, I'm the type of person that I would never put all my eggs in the one bag, but I would put a lot, or if not a majority, in social media. Isn't that crazy? And I would never have done that 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I think even 2020 was a huge shift. Even this year, more so for us, well, for me, especially here in Sydney, just coming out of a 7-week lockdown.
No.
Yeah, it was social, was also one of our outlets, but it was crazy what I bought off social media. One thing has just been delivered, which is an umbrella, right? I never do need. I don't know if I need it, right? But it's a beach umbrella.
Oh,
and
God,
I saw it. Yeah, it was a sponsored ad, and I saw it. I thought, gotta have it. And
you sound just like me. It's like my favorite thing to do when I sit down at night. Cool, what can I buy?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. And I think, you know, again, I think we're a part of the majority who does this. So is it critical for your business? Yes, somewhat.
Yeah.
You know, it really depends how big you want to make your businesses. And you know what? I've seen a lot of amazing consultants who have done no social media, no Facebook, no nothing, but they are just amazing with getting out there, you know, and, you know, they're like the presidents of PNC, and, you know, their local butcher is like, they visit them every day. They're like family friends. Like they're great at creating that culture.
They're
and creating
people,
they're just relationship. So they don't care about social media at all. But then you've got, you know, people that are, you know, very shy, very timid. However, they do amazing sample boxes, like things I've never done in my business. And they are, you know, some top earners.
Yeah.
And they're just thinking outside the square. And it's like, wow, I never would have thought about that.
I love what you said about them not putting all the eggs in one basket thing. So I think that's really key to this, and such an important thing to remember too. I know social media has been one of those shifts that most people have been forced into over the last 18 months. Even if they'd put it off until then, I think everyone at the beginning of last year went, all right, if I'm going to have a business, I'm going to have to embrace this one way or the other. But I've never been of the opinion that social media is the be all and end all. And I know some people right now are going to go, what are you talking about? You teach social media. Yes, we do. But social media is an incredible tool, but it's not everything. Just like you're talking about that person with the butcher, that relationship builder, you know, that is important. And some people are insanely good at it.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
It's one tool. And when you use lots of different tools, they all serve lots of different purposes, and they help you grow a bigger, more holistic, more sustainable long-term business, because when something changes, you can adapt.
That's right. And I think we've seen that, Sam, right? With lockdown, you couldn't go out and, you know, say hi to all your people and, you know, to Mary next door. You couldn't do that. You know, you can have a system turn off with social media. Like, I think that went down for a day and people had no idea what to do. So, but this is real. This is life. Yeah. So I think you need to be able to have that quick pivot in your business. And that's what I meant by just keeping your options open with anything.
Yep. Awesome.
You know?
Now, I want to, we've talked a bit about head office and we've talked a bit about your business. I really value your opinion, especially being that you've got, you know, both sides. You know, you've looked at people operating a business from a head office perspective, from a leader's perspective, and also from working your way up through the ranks as well. And I'd love to know, from your perspective, what would be, say, 3 tips that you would give someone who's trying to build a business in direct selling right now? At any stage, what would be 3 things that you would say to them that are really important to growing a business?
I do believe, and this is only through experience, is that the best way is to share over selling every single day. So if you can get into the habit of sharing your business and what that looks like and incorporating that in throughout your daily share of your life, not as in just sharing your business, you'll see a shift, and it will actually become more like habit when you're cleaning. Instead of just doing something for a video, you'll have or staging things around your house, like it may look staged, but I'm just a Christmas freak and I just love everything Christmas. So of course I'm going to get out my Scentsy Christmas warmers, but I would do that anyway. Like I would still love things to be around. And I think if you're from a sharing perspective of your business rather than selling, it's a completely different, it's a different sell point. You're sharing the product, but you're also sharing that business venture or possibility, or sharing that flexibility, or sharing those highs, sharing those lows. So I think when you can share things from that point of view, you become relatable.
Yeah.
And it's all about relationships, Sam.
Yeah.
This business is all about relationships, good, the bad. So that's one thing, is sharing over selling. One question that I saw that you sent me was something about sink or swimming.
Yeah. What would you say is the difference between those that sink or swim?
Yeah, swim. Yeah. And it's funny because whenever I see that, I'm like, oh, I always get it, because I don't ever want to think of anyone sinking. That's just so definitive. And I always think it's always swimming or floating. Yeah. Right. And when you look at it like that, you can swim with the tide, you can swim with the waves, you can ride the waves, and it's very much like your business, or you can just float.
Yep.
And you can let the tide take you wherever, whichever way you go. You may bump into a mystery island, you may just keep staying at shore, but you really just have that not care, right? Yep. But then there's also, you could be swimming, but you could be swimming against the tide.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when you're in this business and you want to make it work, but you're just finding all the negatives about it.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. And it's never a great place. It doesn't make you feel good. It doesn't make, your customers feel good. It can really strain your relationships that you might have with your team. Mm. But it can be as simple as just literally, instead of doing freestyle, like chucking in a backstroke. It can just be as simple as, instead of swimming this way, just stopping and just letting the tide take you and just, kind of enjoying the ride. And when I think of it like that, I think if we can just think of that with life, but especially within our businesses, and sometimes we might need a float. I don't know about you, Sam, but there are times where I just go in the pool and I just float.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love that analogy.
You're right. And yes. I just, I hope it makes sense. It's just something I just came up with in my head.
I love it. That's so good. Yeah.
When I think about it, it's free, but you have that choice. You always have that choice. And I think that's my step number 2 is you always have that choice, right? And that can be either floating or it could be swimming. And that's completely okay. Whichever one that suits you and wherever you are right now, that is completely your choice. And we encourage it. Yeah. And that was probably one thing that I did notice from home office is I'm like, how would they feel when people leave the business? Yeah. And I feel a bit heartbroken, right? We do. But when it's something that they're leaving for something else, something that they're passionate about, how could you not just be so happy and, really inspired and just encourage them and support them? And I think my top tip number 3 is just to be yourself. I know people say that, but this industry just really is better when people are themselves. Yeah. We don't need anyone else. And that's, if you can duplicate that in your business as just being your authentic self, then you'll come up with ways that people have never thought of. Yeah. That's uniquely yours. And like, to be honest, Sam, like I was crazy consultant. Like I'd be that person when I'd go to pick up, I would literally have Scentsy balloons coming out of my back pocket. Like I was known as the crazy Scentsy lady, which I didn't mind because I'm like, I've been called much worse, but I just like to be different. And, I would give kids balloons. Next thing you know, people are like, oh, I need some Scentsy. And that was just my little things that I would do, just a bit of fun. But, no one had ever done that before. Yeah. I would go into like Kiki K and I'd literally write down my website, when I was trying out pens. Yes. Or Officeworks, and you try out pens. Like it's just
hilarious. I love that.
Yeah, like it's so many dodgy things. Right, oh mate, I was the queen. But this is the thing. Like I remember walking to JB Hi-Fi. They were connected to the internet, so I just brought up my website on every single computer, and it was just different, Sam.
I love
and
it.
that's why I'm
so good. They're like, oh, here she comes again.
Yeah, I kid you not. I think, I became friends with one of them. But it was just funny. Like, it's just like thinking, just, don't always think that you have to,
Hit a box.
do what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
Just be uniquely you.
Yeah.
Be authentically you.
I love that so much. I think that's really powerful. It's something that we drill home a lot is, I love that saying, be yourself because everyone else is already taken.
Yeah.
Just
so
the
true.
power of being you in a relationship building business. If you don't show up as you, people can't connect with you because you're not there. You're being somebody else. And I love that. I think, almost being unashamedly yourself is the power there, isn't it?
Absolutely. And we see it at events. We see it, I see it all over my Facebook with consultants. And gosh, I love it. Right.
Yeah.
I just love it because that's the energy. That's the culture that we have. And I absolutely love it. One of our 3 core values here at Scentsy is authenticity.
Yeah. Awesome.
Followed up by simplicity. Like it's hello, authentically simple and be yourself. So, I do love that.
So much easier to be you as well. I mean, you don't have to learn how to do that.
That's right. That's right.
With that one.
That's right. And you'll attract your people like attracts like.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. So good. Now I've got our fun questions here. So we're gonna finish up on those. So First is, what is your favorite book for us to add to our Accelerator book list?
Oh, you have an Accelerator book list. Okay. I'm pretty sure this one will probably be on there. The Multipliers by Liz Wiseman.
I do not think that it is.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, okay. It's definitely a great book. It teaches you about there's 2 different types of leadership and what that looks like.
Awesome.
So Multipliers by Liz Wiseman. Yeah, I love that.
All right.
Yeah.
You're going to drop another one. I'm
a bit ashamed of this one because it's such a simple read, but I tell you what, I still use things that I learned from this book. And I don't remember who the author is, so I feel terrible, but I just thought about it. It's a book that's called How to Talk to People.
Okay. How to talk to people.
And I got it from one of my mentors, like when I was like 18. I don't know why, because I've never had a problem talking to people. But then when I read the book, there were points on how to talk to people. Yes. There's a difference.
I feel like this could be something I could read.
Yeah, honestly, I still have it, and it's very much loved. This book is highlighted, but it is a very simple read. But there was just some real basic truths that I was like, wow, that I use every single day to this day. And and that was 20 years old. I got that book. So.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to put that one on the list. And I've actually just had this morning, and I go through, and often the books that get recommended to us, don't tell Greg, but I order 1 or 2 of them so that we've got one. We've got a bookshelf here. We keep a whole lot of these books on, and our team can grab them and read them. But we also like to send them out as gifts sometimes inside of our challenges. And so I just had this huge box rock up of all of our Accelerator books.
Fun.
I'm like quickly tucking them all away. And I realized I've actually run out of room, but I'm going to have to put another order in because you've just dropped 2 books that I don't think I've got.
Multipliers, brilliant, really
awesome. Good. And how to talk to people, all over that. Okay, so next question, one of my favorite questions is, if you could have a superpower, any superpower, what would it be and why?
Look, I love the sky. It would have to be flying. Hands down. Yeah, hands down, love to fly.
And would this just be because you like to be in the air, or would it be because you would use it for a purpose? Like,
both. I would, fly myself somewhere, just myself, no one else.
I don't want anyone else to have.
Yeah, that's right. I do love to be in the air. Like even to this day, I still love jumping on the trampoline like a 4-year-old. All right, to
left of center here, but would you go to the extent of jumping out of a plane, or are you like the air but you're not a daredevil?
Yes, I would. Yeah.
All right, you are one of those. Okay.
Yeah, I would. Absolutely.
Okay. And what's your favorite quote, Faith?
Favorite quote? Well, I think it's one of is the way to get started is to quit talking and to begin doing by Walt Disney.
Yeah. Yeah, so good.
I'm pretty black and white. I'm also like that as a leader. Like, I obviously I want to be empathetic and but there's also a line where I'm just like, come on, let's go.
Let's get
pull our socks
I feel like I meant that one. I feel like I should have that one on my forehead sometimes when Greg and I are having a meeting. And I'm like, can we just start, doing this stuff?
That's right. Yeah, I think
He
you and
hates
I
that
both.
because he's an over planner and I'm an under planner. I'm a doer. He's a planner. I'm like, stop the planning. Let's just get on with it.
Paul Gray.
Yeah, right. All right. And I hope he never listens to this episode, but every time I say that, he'll tune in.
He does.
To just the bit that he
just that bit
mentioned. Just the bit. Yeah. Every time. I don't know how it happens. We'll see if it happens this time around.
Okay. You let me know.
I will. All right. Last question. If you could go back in time and say one thing to your past self, what would that be?
Oh, Sam.
I know. The tough questions, right?
Yeah. I think if I could go back and tell my young self, it would be impress yourself before impressing others.
Yep. I like that.
Yeah. And not that there's anything bad about it, but, I think growing up, I just wanted to, it was more about others. Even though I wanted to do it, it was, just keep pushing for yourself.
I think so many of us still do that now. I feel like that is a female trait, is to be chasing other people's opinion of yourself.
Yeah.
Versus worrying about what's good for you. I love that.
I've gotten a lot better. And it's something, that we work on. Yeah, something we constantly got to work on. But to impress myself before impressing others, definitely.
Yep. So good. I love that. Well, Faith, I feel like I could sit here and talk to you for another couple of hours, and I've still got so many questions I didn't ask, but we do need to wrap up. So thank you so much for taking time out of your very, very busy schedule to spend time with me today. I really appreciate you and the knowledge that you shared with myself and our listeners today. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Sam. Honestly, it was such a privilege even to get to us to do this, and I've had a ball. We literally could talk for hours. I think we did that night. I'm heading down to Hobart, to Tasmania in February. So if you're around, awesome. I'll shoot you a message.
Yes.
But thank you so much for having me, and I hope it works out well.
Yeah, such a pleasure. Well, thank you again, Faith. And if anyone wants to reach out to you or to Scentsy, we'll pop some links and things in our show notes as well so that they can check out who you guys are and what you get up to. And we'll put those books that were mentioned as well into our books list so people can go check that out.
Awesome.
But again, thank you so much. Have an amazing, amazing rest of your day, everybody. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.
We'll see you on the podcast again next week. But bye for now, everybody.
Thank you. Bye, guys.